Good morning. Welcome back to Coffee and Commiseration with Kay Steinsapir. Thank you for joining. If you're coming back, thank you for returning. I am honored and happy to commiserate with you for a little bit and be part of your day. If you like the podcast, please be sure to subscribe, follow, leave stars, leave a review. All of that would be wonderful. Thank you so much. So many agenda items that I want to talk to you about today. I haven't been on for a few days, just been running around like a crazy person as per usual lately. And when I don't get to come and talk to you, I feel like I think of all of these agenda items, as Leslie and I used to call them when we would walk across the street for our coffee runs. We would always have all these things we would want to catch up on, let the other person know about, commiserate about, and would always try to get through all of our agenda items. So today, here's what I have for you. I want to talk about grief, loss, and specifically how you interact with people who say the darndest things, who say things that are awkward or uncomfortable or inappropriate when you're grieving or going through anything hard. I had the same experiences with cancer when I was diagnosed and going through treatment, and still now. Most people are well-intentioned, but sometimes they say stupid shit and you have to deal with it. And also, I'd like to share about how John and I grieve differently, how we share differently, or don't share too much in his case. And, kind of how that looks with different family members who are processing loss differently. I would also like to, of course, update you on everything we're doing with Molly's Foundation, which is super exciting. It's a huge reach for us. I sometimes feel like I have really bitten off more than I could chew, but I'm excited about it. So want to share about that. And then, of course, talk a little bit about our current events and kind of what's happening in the world and how I'm feeling about some of these things and how you might be as well. These are such difficult times for so many of us. So I think we have a lot to commiserate about today. So I have a sip of my tea here. All right, I'm on to tea, green tea. I always start with coffee. I'm over caffeinated every day. I start with like 2 cups of coffee, then I move on to green tea. But I try to stop, pretty early in the day because otherwise I don't sleep. And I already have issues sleeping. Last night I had Eli sharing my bed and sharing my pillow. So, looking a little rough around the eyes today. But I digress. So over the weekend, we were part of a really great community event by this group called One Pally, which is trying to bring fire victims together, and everybody's kind of scattered all over the place, and there's just a lot of struggle happening, and a lot of pain, a lot of loss, a lot of grief. So we attended this really great community event at the park. I did a cotton candy station for the kids, and we made it super fun. My sister came down, my niece came down. We of course, we always like to go above and beyond with our projects. So, ours was very festive and fun. We had balloons, we had bubbles, we had cotton candy, we had Molly's logo, and I really feel like Molly, would have loved it. And I feel like she knows everything that we do, and she does love it. But that doesn't mean it's not hard. It doesn't mean, I want my child back, of course, right? Like, I don't want any of this. I hate all of this. Like, this is never what I would have chosen, right? But we don't get to choose. And so it's like that book Option B. Like, Sheryl Sandberg wrote this book when her husband Dave died very suddenly on a treadmill when they were on vacation. It's like, I want option A. I just want Dave back. But Dave isn't coming back, and there is no more option A. And so I'm going to kick the shit out of option B. And that's kind of where I am. I know that I can't control certain things. I know certain things are not a choice, and I have to just work with what I have and what I can control and how I respond to what comes my way. So that's kind of my attitude. Um, so John and I, we have been married going on 20 years. Very different personalities, as you may have gathered. I am kind of the social butterfly. I like to chat with people. I'm curious about people. I love kind of social interaction. John tends to be a more private person. He doesn't really, like his personal business being shared, which, I try to leave him out of my, my discussions and my writings and all of that, but I can only do it to some degree. We are married after all. And it's interesting. I think when we are going through grief and loss, especially when it comes to a child, it's like you have no idea how you're going to get through it and how you're going to react and what's going to feel right and appropriate for you until it happens to you. And so in my case, I gain strength and find meaning by sharing Molly with people and talking about her and making sure her life isn't forgotten and that her legacy is enormous. And that's what gives me purpose. So that involves me being somewhat public facing and being out there and being at things and growing Team Molly and our foundation, all of those things. John, is somebody who's very focused on his career and his group of friends he grew up with. And, he likes a quiet, sort of simple life when he's not busy working, which takes up an enormous amount of his time and energy. So, the public facing events that I do are not always comfortable for him. And he wants to support me, but he doesn't really like to. He feels uncomfortable. It's painful for him to talk about Molly with people who didn't know her, or to see her face on like a shirt, for example. We had those early on with our foundation and he hated them, so we couldn't really use them because it just bothered him to see her that way. Whereas for me, it is kind of the opposite. So I think over the time, that we've been living through this grief existence, which, again, no one would ever choose this. We've kind of come closer together where he has gotten more tolerant of some of the things I like to do and participates a bit more. And, I've also pulled back in what I share as well. So this event, there were a couple instances where people who don't know our story, who don't know Molly, would come and ask. And I mean, of course they do. Of course they want to know. And of course I tell them, right? I mean, that's sort of the whole purpose for me. I want to share Molly. I want people to know about her. But what I want them to know about her isn't about her death. It's about her life. Like, I want to talk about the amazing, beautiful, extraordinary, just funny, quirky girl that Molly was, and share stories and all of that, and bring out her beautiful like light and energy and spirit. And people have morbid curiosity, and so they want to ask you all these questions about her accident and her passing and all of this, which is really not where I, or especially John, want to focus. So we have these encounters, and for my part, I feel like it's like, hey, it's par for the course. It's just going to happen sometimes, and it's the price I pay, among other prices, for kind of being public facing. But for me, this is where I find meaning, and this is how I grow Molly's legacy, and this is how she's never forgotten, which is something that's really important to John too, that people don't just go on with their lives and like, Molly was never here, or she never mattered, or she's forgotten. So we both agree on that. It's just kind of more, how do we get there? So a couple things. So we had one woman who was obviously a little a little off, I would say. And listen, a lot of the people we're interacting with, or I am, like they've just gone through the traumatic experience of losing their home to a fire, and so nobody is at their best right now. This woman clearly was not. She was older, maybe not elderly, but a good 20 years older than me. So I don't know, 60s, I guess, maybe close to 70. Um, and she lost her husband suddenly a few years ago. So it's just her, and she lost her home in the fire. So I have a lot of compassion, for that, and a lot of patience for somebody in that situation. But she was really kind of, she said like, "Oh well, yeah, I saw you on one of the videos in the Palisades neighborhood group, where I'm a neighborhood rep. So I volunteer my time to try to help people get the information that they need and rebuild and remediate their house and all of this stuff. I feel very blessed that our house is still standing and that I have insurance, and so I feel compelled to just try to help my neighbors as much as I can. And so I do that. So this lady says to me, "Well, I saw you and I was, yeah, I thought maybe, are you a real estate agent or something?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm not a real estate agent, not at all." She's like, "But now I see you here with this Team Molly stuff. And I guess, like, what's your angle?" And I'm like, "My angle? Like, no, my daughter passed away. And this is our nonprofit. And we do all of this work in the community because we want to honor our daughter, and we want to do all the good in the world, or some of the good in the world, that she would have done if she had lived." So I had some patience for this lady. I felt bad for her, but John started to get, I shushed him, but he was like, no, like, kind of like he was getting offended that this woman kind of kept pushing, and started then getting into questions about like how Molly died. And again, we're trying to talk about how Molly lived, and I don't want to stand out next to a cotton candy, fun bubbles, music. Like, I'm trying to bring light and happy energy, and I don't want to get into the details of Molly's accident and her passing, but this lady kind of kept going there. And so what I wanted to say, I guess, is I want to make clear to everyone why I do this. I think most people who are listening to me, who are watching me, know why that is. But let me make it clear. I have no angle. I have no agenda. I only do what I do. And it's really the only way I can survive this. Because if I didn't have my boys, if I didn't have John, I would just have ended my life after Molly died, 100%. I just couldn't go on. And it is so painful for me to just exist in a world without my daughter in it. It's horribly, deeply painful, and I would not wish this existence on anyone. But I can't control what happened. I can't bring Molly back, much as I desperately want to. I can't. And so I'm kicking the shit out of option B, as Sheryl Sandberg would say, right? And I'm doing what I'm doing because I no longer want anything out of life besides to have a life of service. We met this couple right after Molly died, named Anne and Wayne. And they lost their son, Mitchell, to cancer many, many years ago. Mitchell would be older than me now. Anne and Wayne are both, they've got to be probably past 80. And they volunteer their time for a group called Grief Haven. And they lead groups for other parents who have lost a child. And I don't remember a lot of the things that happened after Molly died. I was in such a state of shock. I was actually looking through I got a new phone and I had to transfer everything over. So I was looking through all these messages from around the time Molly died and the months after. And I was thinking, God, I don't remember this. By the way, if you're someone who sent me a message and I didn't reply to you, I'm so sorry. I saw a lot of messages I didn't respond to. I was just overwhelmed, and I really appreciate you taking the time to reach out and offer your condolences. And your well wishes and your love to us. But I remember Anne and Wayne because they came to our house, and it was kind of funny actually. The things that stick out in your mind. Wayne had a birthday, and he got a huge balloon bouquet for his birthday. And they asked if they could bring it over to us, and it barely fit in their car. They asked if they could give it to us so the boys might enjoy it. And Eli was only 4, so of course he liked that. So I just remember talking to these two, and again, their son had been passed for decades at this point. He died of cancer when he was 6 years old. And I remember all of the details about Mitchell and his life and what he was like, because these two, his parents, made sure that people knew. And I thought, okay, I don't even know if I thought it consciously, but I absorbed it like, this is what I have to do. This is what I want to do. And Anne told me, she had been a lawyer too, and she said, now I'm really privileged to lead a life of service, and that's where I am. That's where I am, you guys. I don't want anything else out of this life. I don't want any more anything than what I have. If it were up to me, honestly, I would be perfectly fine with just like getting rid of everything, which already we kind of have been forced to do that because of the fire, but I'd be fine with just taking whatever we have and our boys and just buying a little place out in the countryside somewhere and living a quiet life, but still talking to you from my computer. But I'd be fine with a simple kind of thing like that. And, it's not to say that we have some, crazy life, because we don't. We're just normal people, like hardworking people. I don't work anymore because I had cancer, and all of the treatment that I've had to take, which I still have to take, makes it really hard for me to do the career I used to do. It makes it impossible for me to do the big legal career I had before I had cancer. And so, I am privileged, like Anne, to just live a life of service and try to help others and try to be guided by and inspired by Molly and how she would have shown up in the world and the things she would have done if she had lived longer than 12 years. And so that's it. I have no agenda. I have no angle. I'm not a real estate agent. Nothing against real estate agents. I'm not. So, we also encountered another guy who came over and also didn't know about Molly or us, and just had so many questions for me about the accident, about the bike, all of this stuff. And it's like, what do you do? And people just kind of, they're not picking up on your cues. Like, okay, well, great. So nice meeting you. This is what we're doing with the foundation, the community room. I'd love for you to see our website and see Molly and learn about, why we do what we do. But, no, this guy's just going back to like, he's a cyclist. And so he has just going on and on about the accident and the bike and his own fears and all of this stuff. So it's just like, I'm sure some of you can relate. I went through the same thing when I had cancer. People will just say the darndest things. They love to talk to you about people who died. When you are diagnosed with cancer, going through treatment, that in my experience, the thing that people love to commiserate with you about and share with you about are deaths of people who had cancer, like that they knew, or whatever. And it's like, no, like, we don't want to talk about that, especially not now. And I'm not someone who lives in denial of death. I think it's important to live with death in full view. And that's how we live a full and rich and meaningful life, as opposed to an existence. However, especially when you're scared out of your mind and you have a new diagnosis and you're going through treatment and you don't know if it's going to work, you don't really want to be reminded of all of these stories, right? I remember when I talked to my boss right after I was diagnosed, and I didn't even know the staging of my cancer or if it was treatable or what, but I knew it was bad. And he burst into tears And he lived in Chicago. I mean, this is not someone I would see on a regular basis, but he was technically my boss. And I mean, I love the guy, like super sweet guy, but like, really? Like now I'm comforting you? Like his mother had died of breast cancer many years prior and all that. But it's like, if you haven't heard of the ring theory, I highly recommend Googling ring theory. If you are going through any hard time, whether it's grief, cancer, loss, whatever, the ring theory is amazing. The idea is that the people who are most directly impacted by the tragedy, the person who has cancer and their spouse, the person who lost someone and their, significant other, whatever, like the people most directly impacted are in the center of the ring. And the people who are closest to them are in the next ring. This is concentric rings. So that would be like the grandparents and siblings, whatever, like the people who are next. And then further out, like the closest friends. And then finally going out to the coworkers and the people who happen to, be coworkers who you never even see, who live in another state. Like they're way outside the ring. And the idea is that not that these people don't have their own feelings about your situation and that's not upsetting for them. The idea is that we don't put it inside the ring, right? So like the person, my coworker from Chicago, like he shouldn't be putting his emotional reaction to my diagnosis and my situation inside. And it certainly shouldn't go all the way to me. He shouldn't even put it inside to like my closer friends or my family. He needs to take his feelings and put it to the outer circle, outside of him, the person who's even less close to me, the person who knows me even less than he does. And I think that's so powerful and simple. And I wish I'd known it when I had cancer, because I had people dumping into my circle every day, multiple times a day, like, putting all of their understandably scared, angry, upset, difficult feelings on me. And I end up comforting them when I need to be comforted. So Google that if you haven't seen it. Anyway, I'm super proud of what we're doing with Molly's Foundation. I can't wait for you all to see it. Our community room is almost ready to open to both, Altadena and Palisades fire victims to come and get all kinds of great new essentials, clothes, products, you name it, for free, to get free services, pro bono legal advice, not from me, but from legal aid. I don't practice law anymore, thankfully. We're going to have a really fun thing where we bring all the people on our street. And my neighborhood, by the way, almost 90% of the homes burned down. 90%, over 90% on my street. So almost everybody on our street lost their home. So we're bringing everyone to the new community space. There happens to be a great little Italian restaurant as part of the building. So we're going to have childcare for the kids up in our community room, which has a room dedicated for kids with tons of art, books the kids can take, also video games. We got to keep it real. The kids like to play the games. While we all are together and commiserate and hug each other and support each other and have a glass of wine together, the kids will be safe and happy and entertained in the community room. So we're doing all of this. I'm so proud and so excited and can't wait to share more with you. But I also know things are so hard for so many people right now. And I don't know if it's because I'm in proximity to so many people who are affected by this fire, but I am talking to people who are just at their breaking point, financially, emotionally, physically, spiritually. These are just really hard times we're living in. I know that that's the case for a lot of people. And, I've felt that way for a long time as well. And I tell my friends who are calling me and sharing this kind of stuff, which I had 2 conversations yesterday with friends who are literally at the breaking point. One of whom is about to become unhoused and can't pay her rent and has special needs children, and it's just, I mean, so much. Um, I just do the next thing in front of me. That's how I survive. I keep I keep moving and I do the very next thing. I do not look beyond that. I am in the present moment and I am going from where I am to the next thing. So after I finish talking to you, I know the next thing I'm doing. And then I'm going to the community room and then I'm picking up the kids and, all the different things that I am doing in a day. It's like I'm just taking literally the next step, and I don't think beyond the next step, because if I do, I can't handle it. I can't handle thinking about a world without Molly in it tomorrow. I can't. It is so painful. I can't even go there. I have to just be in today. So I've been forced by life, by death, to live in the now. And interestingly, living in the now is the only way to live. Otherwise, a lot of people are just existing. They're not really living, they're just existing. They are lost in their head, they are lost in the past, they are ruminating and worrying about the future, and they are not really living life. It's Eli's 9th birthday this weekend. I don't know. I mean, he was 6 months old when I was diagnosed, and I was afraid I wouldn't live to see him grow up for this long. And so I look at that child and I am just so blessed and so grateful. And it's just like all I need is, my family. And again, that's a privileged thing for me to say, right? Because I have my basic needs met. I don't want for basic necessities anymore. I used to. I grew up that way. A lot of my family lives that way to this day. But recognizing that I am in a privileged position where I don't want for things, and I just don't want anything else. Like I just want to be of service, like Anne and Wayne. And how amazing that I still think of Mitchell, a kid I never met, who lived and died before I was even born. And I remember everything that they shared about him, because every time we would meet in our group, we would go around the circle and talk about our child who died and share about them. So that's what I'm all about, guys. And thank you for seeing me and Molly and my family, and thank you for understanding why I do what I do. Finally, I always have to talk a little bit about current events, because we are just living through insane times. I often have a recurring dream of waves, like a huge, enormous waves, like those waves you see in Portugal, that place where they have the largest waves. What is it called? Starts with an N, Nazare or something like that. I dream of that. Like last time I talked to you, I told you I felt like the sands were shifting under my feet, like I'm walking on shifting sands. And I feel that. And I also feel like enormous waves are like knocking me over, and I'm getting back up and I'm getting knocked down again. And it's tiring, it's really tiring. It's overwhelming. And I feel like I'm like swimming to the surface and just putting if you can see me, you'll see what I'm doing. Like just getting my nose and my mouth above the waves and gulping in air and then getting sucked down again. And that's what I feel like a lot of people are experiencing right now from the conversations I'm having and the social media posts I'm seeing. It's just like, we're in tough, difficult times, and there's so much hatred in the world, and it's just dispiriting. And a lot of us feel paralyzed. Like, what do we even do? And I told you what I'm doing. I'm just doing the next thing, one step, the next thing, and I'm doing my best every single day. And at the end of the day, I'm kind of taking stock. Like, what did I do today? And does this day count for me? Like, does this count as like a meaningful day where I did at least something like that mattered, that had impact, that helped somebody, and it could be as simple as, listening to a friend who's going through terrible times, or helping to amplify voices that need to be heard, whatever it is, just something, and ideally more than one thing. Like that's what I'm trying to go for. But recognizing sometimes we're just kind of gasping for air. We're just trying to get, our head above those waves and be, um, be stable, So if that's you, I recognize it, and I'm sending you a lot of love and support, and know that nothing is forever, Like I felt like I was absolutely drowning after Molly died, and like I had drowned and like I was dead basically, but I couldn't. I had to just drag myself back and get on my feet again and keep going. Just keep going, because everything changes and it doesn't last forever. Everything changes. And the last thing I'll say, with one thing that's changed for me is, I always have just had in my heart and soul, like I want to eventually try to run for political office. I can't shake it. It's like I really feel drawn to it, and I always have. It's why I went to law school, not specifically to run for office, but like because I have such an interest and passion for civics and government and service and public service. Um, and I told John, who doesn't love the idea in the first place, but I was like, I don't know. I think I'm not ever going to do it. In part because, I mean, look, things are difficult enough for me. Like I don't practice law because I'm still on these meds, and things are hard for me in that regard. But I won't be on them forever. I actually have like one more year. So, I'm hoping things will kind of get better once I can get off of them. But also, it's just like the political violence. I'm just so appalled by what happened to Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, that during the Passover holiday, that some lunatic anti-Semite went and tried to murder him and his family in his home, setting, fire, committing arson, and just dismayed that we heard very little about it. I wonder if you all listening to me actually even know about this, if you've heard about this, because it seems like a lot of crimes, and a lot of crimes of hate and a lot of crimes of anti-Semitism in particular are just being, I don't know, like washed over and disregarded, and people don't care. And it's just unbelievable to me, and unbelievable that we just had the anniversary of the Holocaust, and that people in New York City on the anniversary of the Holocaust, of the mass murder of 6 million Jews, were out in New York City ripping down posters of Holocaust survivors in New York City. And it's just so heartbreaking and so scary. And I think, like, God, I can't expose my family. Look at what happened to Nancy Pelosi. Some crazy, lunatic came and nearly beat her husband to death. It's like, we've already lost a child. I can't expose my family to this risk. I can't take this risk. My little Nate was asking me the other day when he came into my room at night, and he was like, Mom, do you think you're going to live for a long time? And it just broke my heart. It's like they need me. They really need me. I got my butt to the gym yesterday because I'm like, man, I got to do my part. I got to do what I can to be here as long as possible for them. So just such a sad reality, because I think a lot of people who would be so good in those positions, who would use the power of government offices to actually serve the public. Like I know I would. Like I would be an amazing elected official, because I only want to serve from the heart and to help people. I have no other interests at all in that regard or in life. I mean, it's kind of liberating. Like I just don't care anymore. All I care about is that I'm a good mom and a good wife and friend and sister, and that every day I am on this planet, I am making it better in whatever way I can, any little way. And it's pretty liberating to live that way. So again, it's always a combination of dark and light, and trying to shine the light and be the light and not get dragged down by the darkness. So I'll leave you with that. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'm off to Big Bear this weekend to celebrate Eli's 9th birthday. And it's just, I see the world through his eyes, and it's just amazing. It's like I'm having the childhood I didn't have growing up, and experiencing his sense of wonder and creativity and joy. And, I had this with Molly and Nate as well, and I still do with Nate, but especially with Eli, because when Molly and Nate were little, I was working my tail off at the law firm, and juggling and doing all the things. And with Eli, I've just had a little more ability to really, really, really be present and get to experience these things, his childhood. And it's just been so fun and so, it's just been such a gift. So I hope that I can remind you of some of the gifts in your life, even if you're also going through a lot of hard things, that the hard things will also pass, and you have so much beauty and wonder and love all around you. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to like and subscribe and leave a review, whatever these professional podcasters say. I would love for you to do that. Thank you.